Want more positivity in your life? Subscribe, turn on notifications, follow us, and all that techie stuff. We'd love to hear from you. Comment, share, or give us a thumbs up. We are grateful to have you hanging out with us at Matt Logan Speaks.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode. And I was thinking this morning that local politics are so crucial and vital. I didn't understand that before the circumstances that we're kind of in right now. Mm-hmm. I would watch them throughout my life on a federal level. But I have Kathleen Harrington here today. Welcome.
Thank you. So nice to be here.
Yeah, I am honored.
Oh, I'm honored. I mean, I'm now become a real fan.
Wow. Thank you.
A little looking forward to this conversation, a little anxious about this conversation, but I've read up and I'm ready, Matt.
Good. What made you decide to take that step then? I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Well, first, why don't you tell, I know what you're up to, but why don't you tell everybody what you're up to?
Sure. Well, thanks, Matt, and it's really a pleasure to be here. I decided a number of months back that I would run for local government. I'd spent most of my life, I've lived here for 10 years, but most of my life before that was in Washington, D.C., where I worked in the federal government, pretty high levels of, working in the Congress and administrations, doing, starting programs that I believed, and I do now, too, that were really important in people's lives, like Medicare, helping to start the Medicare prescription drug program for seniors and people with disabilities. But as I've been here and really embedded more in the community, I've seen how important local government is to people's lives. It does touch people most closely, sometimes in a way they're not aware of, but it is profoundly important. And I've been a kind of person who, I see a problem, I jump in, I want to solve it, I want to work on it with a team. It's what I've been like since I was a kid. And I think we're in tough times now. These are tough times. And so that's when I decided I will throw my hat into the ring.
So what ring is that?
The ring, good point.
Yeah.
I'm running for president of the Rochester City Council.
Okay.
So it's an open seat right now, and that's what I want to do and help serve that way, on help and leading the city council and working together with people to really try to find a recovery that really lifts all of us up. We've seen during this time, Matt, and I know you're aware of that life's not even for everybody. We've seen big gaps, and we got to close those gaps.
We do have to close those gaps. I completely 100% agree. And one thing that you said that I'm aware of, what I'm not aware of, that you maybe know or don't know, I don't know what political party you're running for with. Mm-hmm. So why don't you share that? I really literally don't know.
Well, and that's because it's not an issue.
Okay.
Local government, municipal government is nonpartisan in our community, which I think is a really good thing.
That's terrific.
And I probably at this stage of my life wouldn't run in a partisan race. I think we've lost sight in some ways in the partisan political world of the people. And it's more about the party and scoring points on the other guy.
Yes.
So this is a nonpartisan race. That's why I'm in it. I don't want to score points on somebody else. I want to serve people and not a party, not partisanship, serve the people. And I think it's an honor to be able to do this and a real blessing for our community not to be have partisan politics underlying what we do in the city council.
Why is it set up that way? In Rochester, I mean, that's what you know, particularly in what you're running in.
I think the city charter was that way.
Okay.
And I think there's, some communities it is more partisan, but it's just, I think it's historically been that way. There may be some tensions underlying to move one way or the other, but I think the people really like the fact that it is nonpartisan. Now, opponents try to put you into boxes. One thing I've learned during this campaign is I don't want people to put me into a box because we're more complex than boxes. But I think the people really prefer to have a nonpartisan view of what's important to their lives. Especially now, I think it's really tough. People are getting pretty upset with the anger. So we can really function more without being angry or partisan.
I see more and more that people are using what is it's called confirmation bias, right? So they're going after what their bias is, and they're doing whatever it takes to confirm that, whether it's true or not true. And I'm not talking about one party versus the other. I'm talking about a individual person. And I think that's so important because when you look at things, we're in the middle of enormously weird times. And I guess the thing for me is that, okay, whether you like President Trump or not, and I'm not saying whether I do or I don't, what I'm saying is this, whether you like him or not, he's only been there for 3 years. How can you blame one person for the things that are happening in that short of amount of time? So what that looks like for me, and one of the things I want to say this too, one of the things that is so important for me when I go to speak with students is I want to get them, provoke them to think, right? I don't want to tell them what to do because that's not going to work. I raised 4 kids. If you tell them what to do, it's not going to work, which then translates into adults. You tell them what to do, that's not going to work. You get this anger and this division that you have. So when you have so many people, even frankly in the Republican Party, saying that, you know, Trump's dividing and this is Trump's fault and that's Trump's fault, I don't want you to comment on Trump. What I want you to comment on is the importance of how government on a local level is really where it affects everything, because that's where we buy our groceries, and that's where we get our gas, and that's where we hang out at bonfires, and that's where we do those things that are part of a community, no matter what party you're at. How can you take that division that's happening on a local level and smooth that out? Well, I know that was a long, drawn-out kind of question, but I wanted to set the stage.
It's a really important question, and there are many pieces to it.
Yes.
And it's I think fundamental to that question is really helping people understand how local government touches their lives and not intrudes on their lives, but affects their lives, and then try to engage them more in the conversation at local government level. Yes, the conversations at the national level are important, but the conversation that controls your sewer system, the quality of your water, where your schools are built, how your community develops, where investment of federal tax dollars goes, those are really important to the life of a community, to the strength of the community, and how people feel welcome in a community. So I think what I would like to do if I'm elected is one of the things I really want to do is take government out to the people. Right now, the city council functions in a way that is not unlike others, but to me, there's more opportunity here to go out to the people. Right now, there'll be a city council meeting every other Monday, and an individual can come and give a 5-minute testimony about an issue that they're concerned about. I think that's good. That's important. But what I would like to do is for the council to literally leave City Hall and go out into the community and hold a hearing in a neighborhood and say, we want to understand what's important to you, and have people come and have conversation. We don't have to be formal and testimony and have red lights blinking and sorry, your time is up. No, let's have more conversation. That's what the federal government does. We're small. Let's capitalize on that. Let's not let government grow so much that we lose touch at the local level. So I really want to see much more outreach into the community, where people start to engage, where the council engages with the folks in their neighborhoods, in their neighborhood associations, and do this regularly. We can afford that.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally throwing a boulder in the lake, right? The ripples don't start way out on the outside, quote unquote, federal level. They start right there locally, right where that boulder was dropped, right? And it's very interesting. I was thinking about too, as you said that, what I do, so pretty nearly every school that I go into, I'll have one or two students say, hey, what can we do? We want to do something, blah, blah, blah. And that just reminded me, I tell them, what are you doing at your house? What are you doing at your school? What are you doing in your neighborhood? And I said, that's where you have to start.
That's where you start.
Right. Don't try to get out and do, change laws or get into that kind of level of things, which they're excited to do. But you have to build that foundation at a local level, right? And so I really love how you put that. It's so missed right now. That local level, how crucial it is that it affects the federal level, right?
Sure. And, the government should be of the people. It is of the people.
It is of
That's
the
what our
people.
Constitution
Yes,
says.
absolutely.
But not top down.
Yes.
Bottom up. And
Yes.
even as local government gets bigger and busier and has a lot of responsibility, sometimes we miss the point. We've got to make sure what the people think. And yes, you have elected representatives to help be that voice, but sometimes there's not enough time. And to really literally go out into a community, it's not just symbolic, it's real. It's symbolism that will change reality.
Yeah.
And I am committed. It's one of the reasons I want to run. I think that is so, so important. I mean, and part of, when I look back on my background, and so many years were spent in Washington, and I don't regret it. I'm not someone who cries in my beer about making mistakes in my life. But I look back and think, wow, I thought that was so important. And it was. But I look at this and I think, at the end of my days now, serving my community at this level is what I will be. I will, say, this was honorable.
Yeah.
This was important. And making a small difference is really important. And in Washington, I was confirmed by the Senate a few times.
Sure.
I, had a career. But this, I think, is, this, I hope, will be something my daughter and my granddaughter will be proud of and say, she made a difference.
Yeah. I think they already are, just by your passion.
Well, and I do want to make a difference. And as I said, even when I was a kid, I was the first, I grew up as a working class kid. A lot of people look at me and assume, oh, she silver spoon lady or something. I think because I was tall and stood up straight.
Sure.
And I was a working class. My parents were working class. I was the first in my family to go to college. They couldn't understand why I wanted to go. They were really scratching their head. And I got there by scratching and clawing.
Yeah.
And ever since I was little, I wanted to make a difference. And I thought education for me was how I was going to be able to do that. And
It's interesting how you said that, education for you. I look at the education process as super important, but there's different types of education for me. I didn't go to college, and whether I should have or shouldn't have isn't what I'm saying. Is like you can actually be happy,
absolutely,
and if you're happy, you're successful, right?
Amen.
To me, and so I really like how you said that, and I also want to circle back to what you said, and as you're having this conversation, so you had said you like to dive in and solve things. You see a problem, you like to dive in and solve things. I actually do a segment on problem plus reaction equals disaster, and problem plus thought equals solution, right? So I like how you have thought this out and things like that to find those solutions. Clearly, just in this few minutes that we've had together, I can see that. Like you're looking for those solutions, you're thinking through the different processes and all those kinds of things. Is that something that has come naturally to you, that you're able to look at that big picture and think through it and solve things? And when I mean big picture, I don't mean federal level like government. I mean big picture as Stephen Covey put it really well. I love how he said that you have to how did he word it? I'm going to totally screw up how he said it, but begin with the end in mind, I think is exactly how he said it. So you have to look at, okay, what's the end goal here? And then here's where we have to start to get there, right? So begin with the end in mind. I'm pretty sure that's exactly how he said it. But look it
If
up.
he didn't,
people.
he should have said it away. That's pretty.
I'm pretty sure that's how he said it, but yeah. So how would you begin?
How would I begin?
If you were elected, how would you begin?
Okay.
What does that look like?
Well, I've thought a lot about that. And I think one thing I just want to say is I didn't, I've gotten to this point where I can help drive solutions. And I do look at where we have to go and back up to what we have to do to get there, build a team around it, figure out what's the objective. You always start with what's the objective.
Mm-hmm.
What Stephen Covey said, where do you want to go? I think of that as the objective. And then you think of the strategies and then the tactics. I've learned through many years of experience, it's easy to start with the tactics. Okay, we should do this, we should do this, we should do this. It's like, stop. Let's talk first why. Where are we going? Then what's our big strategy? Then we can talk about the tactics. So in what I would really like to do, I think we have an issue of culture that we have to change in the city council. It's sometimes there's bullying that goes on. Sometimes there are people who have their own view and they try to drive it. That's good. I mean, that's okay. But I think we have to have a culture of respect. We can disagree, and I'm all for disagreement. I'm Irish. We fight. We debate. I love debate. We do it. We did it at the dinner table when I was a kid. It was fun. It's sport for me. So you can debate.
And Reagan said it best. He's like with Tip O'Neill, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
With Tip O'Neill, he said we'll fight all day and then have a beer at dinner together, right? And that's exactly the point.
And so I'm someone who's very comfortable with debate if it's respectful. Debate without going to division. Debate based on fact. You can have passion, but you don't malign the other person because they have a different perspective. So debate without division. I really want to help promote that because I think at the federal level we have a lot of division. We have debate, but almost the facts of the debate are lost by the division.
Agreed.
And at the local level, I want to make sure that with people, collaboration to say, let's have respectful debate, but not get ugly, not malign each other, not assume malevolence. I try to live my life by assuming benign intent.
Yes.
Even when I get hurt, I think, all right, pull back.
The intent, that's a perfect way to put it.
Assume benign intent. Don't always assume malevolence. And sometimes it's hard to do because we're people and we get hurt.
Yes.
And then you protect yourself.
Right.
But if you assume benign intent and you try to... I'm babbling here.
No, that's what a podcast is for.
It's so much
to
fun.
babble, right? It's just to have a conversation. It's perfect.
So I think culture is really important. And to have good debate, respectful debate without division, you have to know what the rules are. You have to know what the rules are. And, a governing body has rules. Our city council decided...
Can I pause you a second?
Yeah.
When you say that, you have to know what the rules are. I completely agree. But you also have to understand that the rules can't change every 5.5 seconds.
Right.
Right.
Yes. You have to know what they are.
And I'm not saying that it's one party or the other. You have to know what they are, but then
be consistent.
You're always changing them.
Be consistent in application. Yeah. It's like raising children.
Right.
It's like raising children.
Right.
And so, yes... We all in Rochester, there is an agreement written down that they will follow Robert's Rules of Order. Now, people will say, that stifles. And I think, no, they're there for a reason. They help to have debate and not division. But you have to, like you said, enforce the rules.
Yeah.
Live by the rules. It's like the golden rule. If you don't live by it, if you selectively apply it, you're not living by the golden rule.
Right.
So we have to have the rules, live by them, allow the debate, not the division. And as city council president, that's the job. I'm just one vote. I have the great if I won, opportunity of trying to capture everybody's voice, but running the meeting in a way that allows for debate, respectful debate, not division, come to a view, and everybody doesn't have to agree. We're human beings. We're not all going to agree. But you come to, you rule, you vote, but it's got to be orderly, follow the rules, which will, I believe, bring about best conversation, respectful dialogue, and an environment where you can focus on the issue and not the personalities. It's very easy in politics to focus on personalities. And some of the best politicians are the biggest personalities, and vice versa. But at the local government, it's like, we got to stay focused on the sparrow here. My mom would always say, eye on the sparrow. I think she taught me what Stephen Covey said, figure out the outcome.
Yes.
You don't lose perspective.
Yeah.
So let's keep the eye on the sparrow, and the sparrow is the quality of life for the people we work for. So that's why I'm running. It's what I've tried to do in all my jobs, is say, why am I here? Why am I blessed with this job, with this paycheck, with this opportunity to make a difference? And it's interesting running too at this stage of life. I'm older. I've had many years of experience. I've learned a lot through those years. I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned from my mistakes. I didn't keep making the same mistake over and over. I learned from it. Yeah. And now I can offer the benefit of those mistakes and the learning and the experience. And if we weren't in this time, Matt, which is so unique in our history, I mean, it's a like you started, it's an amazing, troubling time. We've seen the issues. I mean, the racial issues have really come to the fore. I don't think we can ignore them anymore.
For
we
sure.
can't.
For sure.
We can't ignore the gaps in opportunity, health, education we have in our country.
It does come down to the rules have to be the same for every person, right? Whether that be in government or anywhere else. But I look at things right now and I see so much. Let me say it like this. I see where the victimization of everything is like the forefront, right? And if you're not a victim, then you're not living, right? I mean, I see that. So what I'm saying is accountability, right? We each have to be accountable first to ourselves and then to society. And I think that if we can get to a place like that and that level of accountability, that I do something to you, I'm accountable for that, not you, right? How do you look at that, and how can people be better at not being the victim, trying to get back to that solution? You brought that up, so obviously that's on your mind. How do we come to that solution place with that?
Well, I can start with my own story.
Yeah.
I could have easily been a victim of a family dysfunction, a victim of, parents who just had a hard time coping with reality. And I said, I'm not going to be. I'm going to change things for me. But I do think there's some systemic things, though, in our culture, in our country, and I do think that we do have some systemic racism in our country that goes back all to the history of slavery. And I'm studying more, reading more, and I think it's affected the reality of people's lives. And trying to understand that is really important. So, yes, you can make yourself a victim, but I've met so many people on this campaign trail who could have been victims. I think of one man who spent a few years in prison. And he was being an entrepreneur on the street. I mean, he was trying to survive and feed his family, but he was stealing.
Sure.
And he spent time in prison. He paid his dues. He paid. Now he's starting a company, and he's hiring people, men who were formerly incarcerated, giving them jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a victim.
I like
He's
that.
not a victim. He's spreading God to people.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a victim. I met so many people like that. I think we have to raise them up. And, when I look at him, I think, okay, I'm trying to help him get, expand his business.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get credit if you don't have a great credit rating. It's like, well, we all want to help. And I'm like, so I'm going out now and trying to find banks saying, you know what, just sit down, let's talk. I'll back this guy.
Mitigate the risk.
Mitigate the risk.
Sure.
Right, because,
That's
his
interesting.
circumstances put him in a situation where, he's, on paper, he looks like a bigger risk. But when I say, look at this man's soul, look at how this man has changed and the lives that he's changing, maybe some of the definitions of risk may not apply here. And we may have to change some of the rules. But let's look at people's hearts and the reality of their lives. So I think in some ways it's not bending the rules, it's opening our minds.
Yeah.
Opening our minds. If we want to help people, who've been in prison, change their lives, we can't have them come out and put them in the same circumstances. We can't. We have to help them change and truly change. I mean,
Right.
So, it's an interesting question about victimization.
So let me say it for my own circumstances. I drove up on my daughter's car crash, not knowing that at all. I mean, and so I have made the choice to not be a victim of that circumstance. I had zero control over that, absolutely none. However, statistically speaking, people become a victim of that type of a circumstance in very, very large ways. I mean, I've looked at it. And I made the choice to say yes when people asked me to go and speak. And that's a hard yes to say. But I understood then after doing that how important, and we talked about this off camera, how important that story is for other people to heal. Now, when I tell that story, I have to rip those wounds open every time. And so it's not really very healing, but it is very rewarding to see that. And I think that's what's important about helping people to not be a victim. I did have a couple of people in my life that said, what are you going to choose to do? Are you going to choose to be a victim of this, or are you going to choose to? And that didn't mean to choose the stage that I've chosen at this point, but that is to mean that you're going to be a productive person. And I think that's where we miss so many things, that we don't help people not be a victim. And by helping them not be a victim is by holding them accountable first to that themselves, right? It's that boulder and that ripple effect. If you can't start in the center and understand that, it's not going to ever go anywhere. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So I really like how you put those pieces in and not be a victim yourself. I'm thinking, let's wrap up.
Okay.
Is there anything that you want to wrap? Let me say this. I really appreciate how you've not put anybody else down. You have shown other people what your plans are and what you're going to do and what your experiences have been. And that's pretty rare in politics, even at this local level. So first I want to thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
So, and then let's wrap up. What do you want
Okay.
what do you want to wrap up with?
Well, I just want to wrap up by saying thank you. Thank you for taking your pain and turning it into progress for others.
Thank you.
That's service, and that's ultimately caring for others.
Yeah.
Which at the end of your days, I hope you'll say, "I did well doing this." And
Yeah, thank
it's
you.
I've taken my pain and put it into drive sometimes, maybe used the action to cover the pain. But when I do that, I've caught myself and say, no, stop and think, why are you doing this? What is that end goal? Why are you doing it? And I feel like I'm running for office. I've examined my conscience a lot. I want to make a difference. I want to use all of these years of experience, apply it to now, and help to try to make a difference for people. It's been an absolute joy to run. It's hard. It's hard putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Having people criticize you who don't know you. But
The proverbial lights are on.
the lights are on.
Every nook and cranny.
But that's why this is so grateful. I mean, so wonderful, like you said, to have an opportunity to talk with someone, a real conversation, not a
Yeah.
90-second soundbite.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that. I thank you for what you're doing, for turning your incredible tragedy into healing for others. And that's what the best of people do. So thank you.
I hope I'm not remembered by my mistakes, but I hope I'm remembered by what I've learned from those mistakes.
Oh, well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
See you soon.